Hello everyone, welcome back to Major Hi-Fi. I'm Luke. Today we're going to be talking about Shanling's UP4 Bluetooth DAC/amp. So the UP4 runs for $99 and it is basically an amp that allows you to use your headphones, your wired headphones as Bluetooth. You're still going to have the wire from your headphones, of course, but what you're not going to have is the wire between your amp and your device, so you can kind of have a bit more freedom and also just a little bit less clutter of, wire to amp, amp to headphone. It just takes out that extra middleman and then also just allows you a bit more freedom so you can just walk around, especially if you're going to use this with like your computer or something, walk around your house or whatnot, and if it's with your phone, don't need to have your phone with you everywhere, or you can have it in a different pocket or in your bag or whatever. So yeah, Shanling has released other amps like this before. They have the UP2, which received a lot of really good praise, was another Bluetooth amp/DAC, and then they've also done some other sort of small pocket-sized DAC/amps like the UA2, which was not Bluetooth, but once again, also really solid and definitely set the bar high for this one. So if I open up the box here, we get the UP4, which as you can see is very small. We also get a couple accessories. So we get a charging cable, USB-A to USB-C, and then we also get a case that we can put on to the UP4. And then this allows us to clip the amp to your belt or your pocket or whatever you want, which is really great for portability and convenience. So yeah, that's all you get and all you really need for a DAC/amp like this. And it's got a nice reflective black exterior, very sturdy build, kind of similar to other small pocket-sized DAC/amps. You definitely want a good build on these. There's a good chance you might drop it or run into a little bit of trouble if you're taking it everywhere, So this definitely seems like it would withstand some wear and tear, which is great. This uses Bluetooth 5.0. It has up to 15 hours of battery life. It has an LED light, which will tell you which codec is being used. So green is LDAC, white is HWA, magenta or purple is aptX, yellow is aptX HD, blue is SBC, and cyan is AAC. It supports up to 96 kilohertz and 24-bit audio, and it uses two ES9218P audio chips. There are also 3 different gain settings and 4 different digital filters to switch through on the UP4. Alright, so design and functionality. Overall, I'm very satisfied with this amp. I have a few comments, I have some compliments, and some complaints. So compliment-wise, it's super small, it's extremely low profile, and for how small it is, the output is really impressive, especially for Bluetooth. If you have a super high impedance pair of headphones, you might not be able to get it into those extremities of volume, like you might be able to in another amp. You might not need those extremities if you're not someone who finds yourself pushing the volume in general with any amp. But it is Bluetooth, your output's not going to be the same as non-Bluetooth. So for the most part, I was fine. I definitely was boosting the volume a bit more than I would on a normal amp, but that was expected. And yeah, so like I said, if you want extreme volume, which hopefully your ears can handle, and you're using high impedance headphones, this might not quite get you there. It should get you pretty darn close though. And for lower impedances or more mid-range impedances, then this will be pretty much fine in terms of volume and output. The volume knob, as you can see, is a sort of a wheel that we can turn here. It's also the on and off button. And I appreciate that. It's a little bit finicky at times. I wouldn't mind a more protruding knob. I guess the advantage of this is that it does make it a little bit harder to make accidental adjustments, which is good. You don't want to accidentally blow out your hearing. But it does at times make it feel a little bit I don't know, I could use a knob sticking out, but I understand that would make it less low profile and a little bit less easily portable. So I understand the smaller knob. I just am not always a huge fan of the wheel. So the wheel here on the side does the sort of basic functions: on, off, play, pause, next track, previous track. It's all different levels of clicks and whatnot. So we have power on off is a long press for 3 seconds, play pause, single click, next track, double click, previous track, triple click, and then your voice assistant would be a quadruple click. That's all easy to follow for me. I can figure that out. However, this mode button, which controls every single other function, is where I got confused. You can hold down the mode button. I can switch between different, we'll see, there we go, okay, blue. So different clicks do different things to different settings. but we have one button that is basically doing everything. So we have an LED on the front that can change a number of different colors, but it's not enough colors to cover the number of functions it has, which is fine because there's only so many kind of like distinctive colors in the rainbow. But this could definitely benefit just from a small LCD screen and maybe one extra button, because here's the thing. A single click of the mode button will show us which gain mode we're on right now, as indicated by the LED light. A double click will help us switch the gain mode, and then a long press for 3 seconds helps us switch between the digital filters. But the colors used for the light overlap a lot, so let me just read this off for you. Blue light means low gain, green means high gain, yellow light means dual DAC / boost gain mode, which we can only use with the 3.5mm output. But the blue, green, and yellow lights can also correspond with the digital filters. So they can mean, blue light is linear phased fast roll-off filter, green light is linear phase slow roll-off filter, yellow light is minimum phase slow roll-off filter, and then the purple light is also the minimum phase fast roll-off filter. But then of course, as I mentioned earlier, these lights also correspond with the codecs. So when you see a green light, it could be confusing to know, is this high gain? Is this the linear phase slow roll-off filter? Or is this the LDAC codec? And that goes for the blue light too, and some of the other colors. So it's confusing sometimes what is actually happening. And of course I understand, you click different lengths of time for different things, but it's just a bit like, maybe my brains are scrambled, but I was a bit thrown off by it. And after using this for about a day, I started to get more used to it, started to understand it more, but I'm like, would it really hurt so much to just put, it could be literally 3 letters here just to say abbreviations for things, but definitely, or just one extra button too, or 2 extra buttons, or a switch or something. I don't see why every function, basically besides, play, pause, and on, off, have to be through the same button. But for me, this was not this didn't make me dislike the amp. I wasn't like, I don't want to use this amp anymore, because it does sound really good, it functions really well, and especially for Bluetooth, it's a really impressive output, like I said. But just the sort of functionality of it could be cleaned up a bit, could be improved. I know people that have this amp, they all love it. It's not something that ruins the experience for you or anything, but it's just something to be mindful of. It might take you a couple days of fiddling around with to fully understand what's going on, but as long as you can pay attention and just, put a little effort into learning it, should be fine. But that's my main critique of this DAC/amp. So in terms of sound quality, this definitely leans into a more transparent sound with some very light grooming. I tested this mainly with Kinera's Nana, the Final Audio A3000, and Sennheiser's IE300, and I found pretty consistent effect from this to all of them. So I found that the high end felt a bit accentuated, the mid-range a bit tightened up. If you're looking for a lot of coloring and saturation or whatnot, if you definitely want an amp that is giving you that extremely crystal clear, your headphone sounds different, this is not really for that. This is definitely that subtle upgrade that a lot of other people are looking for with their, DAC/amp. So very transparent sound for the most part. The main thing I found from the sound was the high end being accentuated a bit. If you're, don't want any extra brightness, maybe this isn't right for you, but for the most part, it felt like a nice high end boost, didn't feel overly harsh. And I do think the mid-range was cleaned up a bit, as many good amps will tend to clean up that area, so I liked that too. Hey guys, Luke here. Just wanted to pop in and say that if you're enjoying this video, it would be great if you could subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when we make new content, and hit the like button, and leave us a comment if you have any suggestions or questions or anything like that. I would love to talk to you guys more. We would really love some help growing the channel, and just want to make sure that we're reaching our audience and whatnot. So yeah, any support is greatly appreciated, and let's get back to the review. In terms of the digital filters that it offers, which are linear phase fast roll-off, linear phase slow roll-off, minimum phase fast roll-off, minimum phase slow roll-off, like I said before, I was a bit confused about what was going on and which filter I was on, when, blah, blah, blah. So it took me a minute to kind of get acquainted with them. And the differences between them are so subjective. I mean, all this stuff is, but between those filters, it's definitely as subtle and as, sort of fine-tuned and case by case in terms of what you're going to hear. It's as subtle as you can really get with audio, but there was definitely some difference. But I've gone back and forth on what those differences really were a number of times. I can say that the minimum phase slow roll-off was probably my go-to. It felt like it gave the high end the most cleanliness and the sort of most satisfying boost to it. It kind of added some more detail. I liked that a lot. The linear phase fast roll-off definitely felt like it gave a sort of warmer sound, a bit more of that kind of cutting down the edge, kind of the opposite of some of the other ones. So I sort of switch between that one sometimes. But overall, the filter is definitely going to be something that you're going to get to know more and more as you use this for a while. They're going to take a bit to get acquainted with, as with any amp. And even just with a couple days of use on this, I started to get more familiar with which one I wanted for what type of song or application and whatnot. And the differences and kind of advantages and disadvantages of each one became more clear, but still were very subtle and kind of hard to describe. Sound is already very hard to describe, but when you get into that kind of minutia, it's almost like a little beyond words, but overall, I appreciated really just that there was the option to customize the sound that much. And I appreciated that there was that many options on such a small device, even if they were a little bit difficult to access at points. So overall, the level of customization with the gain modes and the sound filters, while it does have a little bit of a learning curve to figure out how to do them, the fact that you have that many options in such a small package, and also a fairly inexpensive package, is really a big plus, and something that you're not going to be able to find, at this lower price point and smaller size, and also not something you're going to be able to get for this level of quality in a Bluetooth format. So overall, I'm really, really impressed by this. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the UP4. I appreciate that it basically is a Bluetooth device that is looking to upgrade your quality and not sacrifice it. It definitely does add a bit of cleanliness to your setup and experience, just getting rid of that extra connection, having to be tied to your device and having to have an amp in between with extra cables. Just getting rid of that one connection does make a bigger difference than you might realize, and does make things just a bit more seamless. And this has very good pairing too, very fast pairing. So just a good, really solid unit, especially for Bluetooth. I really do trust Shanling with their quality and whatnot. So yeah, if you're looking for a Bluetooth DAC, or amp, then I think that the UP4 could very well be up your alley. It's not the most intimidating price point for a DAC/amp I've ever seen, and I think it really does deliver on the quality and the customization of the sound, and it's got a very versatile, gain ability to it also with the output. So overall, very impressed with this. I'm really curious to see what other people think of it. Would love to hear your thoughts, so leave me a comment if you have any questions about this. I will link my written review of this in the description per usual, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with some more reviews and videos, and until next time, happy listening.